from our studios in beautiful Mandan, North Dakota, along the mighty Missouri River. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
For some imaging purposes, drones may not be the best choice.
Oh.
We will discuss what many are considering a significant alternative and how this technology will impact our lives. Maker Faire New York just finished up in New York.
Dun, 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 dun,
I bet that Maker Faire New York thing kind of gave that away. Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino will be reporting on what she experienced at the show a little half past the hour. And, of course, NASA just had a major announcement about Mars this morning.
Mars!
And we'll bring you the news to that as well. At the control panel, producer extraordinaire, Mr. Jim Walsh.
Good morning, baby cakes. How you doing?
Doing fine. Obviously, you're still recovering from the blood moon last night.
Yeah. Well, I was disappointed. We had some clouds.
We did have some clouds, but there was a chance to see the eclipse.
And the moon, well, we where I lived, there were quite a few clouds. The timing was bad because the eclipse got about halfway through, and then the cloud cover came over.
Right.
And now I'll never find out how it ended.
Well, I will tell you that it became black. It was dark outside.
Ooh.
Oh, that's right. It was night already.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's
like George Carlin with his forecast. Tonight's going to be dark with scattered light toward morning. Well, I love that kind of thing. I'm a stargazer from way back, and I love those. We saw a little bit, my wife and I did, of the lunar eclipse.
Right. Yeah.
When was the last time we had a solar eclipse around these parts?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think
I
we've
saw
had
one
some
in Texas one time. It's very cool.
It's very cool, yeah, and I have seen them as well. It's been a while, though, here. I think the Southern Hemisphere has had a few over the past few years, but up here we haven't. I think we've had some partial eclipses.
Yeah.
But, yeah, last night was cool. I mean, of course, the moon was as bright as it could possibly be. We didn't get the blood moon experience here, though.
It didn't turn red.
Other parts of the country did.
I didn't
noticed
see the
some
red
photos.
moon, no.
Right. What happens there, if people want to know why, how that happens, it's an atmospheric condition on Earth, not dissimilar to when we have sunsets and you have harvest going on. You get that harvest sunset because there's a lot of dust in the air and that type of thing.
Well, with the volcanoes, what about the forest fires up
That's
in
correct. That's
in
correct.
Canada?
But a lot of that has cleared off in our neck of the woods here.
Yeah.
But other parts of the country, I've seen some very good photos this morning of the blood moon, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was very, very red. So, yeah, cool stuff.
I think the way it works is the sunlight hits the Earth, reflects off the Earth onto the moon, so it's like an indirect reflection
That's correct.
of sunlight.
So as it comes around us, and of course the blues and those type of colors dissipate quicker than the reds, and that's why we see the reds and the oranges.
The blues. The moon is singing the blues.
Exactly,
All
man.
right.
Exactly, man. So,
I'm digging it.
Yeah, so last week I was up in Grand Forks, as you know.
Yes, went very well. We got it up on the podcast.
Yeah,
thingy.
so people want to listen to last week's event. That would be great at the Alara Center up there at the AUS Summit. Covered a lot about the drone activity. And one of the things that kind of came away from that is that maybe drones aren't always the best choice.
Well,
so
no one thing ever is.
No, and what's interesting is that on my segment called Drones in Space here.
Drones in Space!
Could be a TV show, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Or to drone or not to drone.
We'll put it on right after Blood and Oil.
Exactly. So there's a bunch of miniature satellites, and I got a picture of it here, Jim. And actually, for our Meerkat users, maybe show that in front of the camera over there.
Oh, okay.
And basically, what it is, I mean, they're not really much bigger than a bread box. When they get up in orbit, the solar panels spread out a little bit, but they're basically miniature satellites, mini satellites or mini drones, if you want to call them that. And this company called Planet Lab, or actually if you go to planet.com, I believe it is, or it might be planet.co. I forgot to get the...
Like a place where you go to get big dogs.
Yeah, exactly. But there you can actually... they are going to have, I believe, 128 of these orbiting, and they have close to that now. If it wasn't for the last SpaceX, I don't want to call it a disaster, but when it blew up, they had 30 some of these satellites on there to deploy off of that. Otherwise, it'd be fully implemented right now. And what's unique about this is that they can take photos to about 1.5 meters, which a lot of people don't understand that. But right now, a satellite is about 15 meters.
Right.
They call it 15 meter. Now it's 1.5. Some of these are actually sub-meter, which means basically like the spy movies that you see. You can see people's license plates, and you can see what they're drinking, and you can make out the car and that type of thing.
You can see the hair falling out of the back of my head.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be what's possible with this. And what's unique is that it'll take one photo of the Earth every day. Every day. So you think about the tsunami from how many years ago was the tsunami?
Which one? There have been a couple.
Well, yeah, but the big one in Japan.
Japan, right.
That's coming
5 years ago.
Yeah,
so.
has it been that long already?
Well, it's been a while. Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, it took them 96 hours to get a satellite in position so they could see what's going on there.
Yeah.
With this, no more than 24.
Well, further back, the one that happened 10 years ago, the day after Christmas.
Yes.
One in Indonesia or wherever it was.
Right.
No, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka.
So, you think about that possibility of being able to see and of course, monitoring your crops. And this is where this is going to. Maybe we don't need to put a drone in to monitor crops and that type of thing. If you can get a photo every day of your field or whatever, then people, and it's actually less expensive to get that image from space than it is to put a drone in. So that's what you're seeing there. People are actually trying to figure out if that'll be a better solution than putting a bunch of drones up to do things. But, drones, of course, will have other things to do besides taking photos.
Yeah. Well, we've come a long way from the days of Sputnik. There are actually some folks out there who are still, well, the geezer is old enough to remember Sputnik. Hell, he was old back then, I resemble that remark. Go back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think that it'll be interesting to see where the drone satellites take off, and if we're going to have more and more of these, and if we're going to have a lot more space clutter because of it too, But I'm impressed with the imaging capabilities. Yes, it's kind of Big Brother-ish.
Well, there was a line from a movie years ago. They talked about newfangled satellites that can tell the difference between a whale breaking wind and a Russian submarine blowing its tanks. Apparently, that was a problem at one time.
We obviously are at that point.
Oh, no, it's not one of those whale fart thingies.
You always bring a unique perspective to the conversation.
I have a weird mind. I don't know what it is.
Well, next up, we're going to have OVNIO. OVNIO stands for Open Vision Networks International Online. Jason Swanson from OVNIO will be on, and he will be discussing where this technology is going. So come on back.
Right now, 57.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. SuperTalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or TheTechRanch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank our listeners across the country and around the world who follow us on the Blueberry Network, on the Tech Podcast Network. If it's Tech, it's here. Of course, we're on iTunes, on TuneIn, on the Roku, and our own app, Radio Pup. So all kinds of places you can catch the Tech Ranch later on. Of course, our new one, Meerkat.
Yeah, there was some question about how folks can stream the show.
Right.
Because our next guest has some fans who were wondering about
that.
Absolutely.
So they can actually, if they want to stream live, they can go to the radio station webcast, or correct, Jim?
Supertalk1270.com. There's a button there where you can stream us.
Yep. And, of course, if you go to the TechRanch.com, I have the exact same button, which takes them back to the radio station
website
options, to that.
Sure.
So a couple places that you can go to stream it live. If
one doesn't work, try the other.
That's right. And you can actually, I know a lot of times, like in our office building, it's difficult to get the radio station in there.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Well, we're an AM station.
Right. Right. So it's great in the car.
You go under a tunnel, it's like...
But if you want to get the streaming option, it's always good there. So.
Yeah.
All right. And next on the phone from OVNIO, Jason Swanson. So how you doing, Jason?
I'm great. How you doing, guys?
We're doing great as well. So we were going to have you on a couple weeks ago, of course, and we had a little scheduling issue, and we're glad to have you back on. So we talk a lot about the Roku, cutting the cord, Apple TV here, and OVNIO is kind of taking that whole thing to another level. So we were kind of excited to have you on. So why don't you explain to us, Jason, what OVNIO is?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And it's quite exciting what we're doing over here at OVNIO. Specifically, the idea really originated from a lot of my friends coming to me to stream their independent content online and aggregating or kind of like tracking eyeballs. And keep in mind, back in those days, we're talking about 2006, MySpace was really big in terms of people marketing their content, and MySpace had a small section on its website called MySpace Film, where a lot of filmmakers kind of like promoted their films. And so I said to myself, well, if I have the technical know-how, let me just create something that people can not only broadcast or air or stream, if you will, their content to a specific demographic here in the United States as well as overseas, but more importantly, allow people to socialize. So that's literally where the brainchild of Avnio really started to manifest in my mind. With that being said, Avnio literally became a cable television social network type of platform where as opposed to your Rokus, your Hulus, and your Apple TVs, it's just kind of like an OTT type of environment. What we're doing over here at Avnio is we're physically giving people, which is obviously the users, the ability to watch lifestyle content that they really like and have the ability to customize the experience by way of choosing the lifestyle channels and socialize with their friends in real time, all into one particular browser window, as opposed to physically looking at something and then having to kind of like opt out or go to another window to physically open up their social networks or social media. Everything is physically in one particular window. They can watch their content in true full screen with no browser borders, as well as socialize and do like more than just like one or two things, kind of like 8 things under one particular window. And we feel over here at Avnio, that's where the millennials are going, kids ages 18 to 34. So we're kind of excited.
So if, let's say Jim and I were watching something, I mean, we were watching the same thing at the same time. He's at his place, I'm at my place. I mean, does this give us the ability to make comments on what we're watching, whether it's a football game or a new series that started or what have you?
That is correct. So the experience is very, very simplistic. It's a easy way to watch television, and you and Jim can literally just open up your Twitter or your MySpace account, and what happens is it's a split screen type of effect where the window kind of like appears in front of the stream itself, and then you physically can log on to your social profile for either Facebook, Twitter, or if you're in Russia, you have a VK account, which is the Russian Facebook. You can literally open up and kind of like socialize with your friends and talk about the content, whether it's a live stream or on-demand type of stream in real time.
So you did say MySpace, correct?
That is correct.
So do you I haven't used MySpace in 7-8 years, right, I suppose. Yeah. So are there still a percentage of the world that still uses MySpace over Facebook?
Of course, yeah. Here's a quick education. What we did over here at Avnio, and our staff is comprised of millennials, kids that are in the ages of 18, a little younger, because we realized at the end of the day that people in different countries still use social networks that were once popular here in America, like MySpace. Okay. And even before MySpace, Friendster. MySpace still has 100 million subscribers using the website daily, just for music and socialization.
Yeah,
so
I would have
never. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I just would have never would have dreamed that they were still that popular.
Right. Neither did we. But and it's funny, and I give credit to my dad, because my dad was like, "Well, Jay, you use Facebook all the time, and you use Instagram, and those are really popular. But what about the kids overseas?" And I'm like, I didn't really want to have a narrow mind type of kind of attitude in terms of creating the global type of network. So I said, let's research other social networks that are popular. And one social network that really kept popping up was MySpace. And even before MySpace, I don't know if you guys remember, but Friendster was really big back in the late 90s.
Absolutely.
And that was right. So Friendster is really big. Friendster has like 120 million users out in Southeast Asia. So what we did at Avnio was we physically put a plug-in of every major social network across the planet, on the Avnio platform. So if you are, a subscriber to Avnio and you live in, let's say, Thailand, and you're watching our Thailand TV station, you can physically socialize with your friends on Friendster if you wanted to, as well as us here in America. If we engaged you, or we sent you an instant message through the Avnio platform.
Okay, so you're able to actually correspond with people throughout different platforms, whatever they're using for social media.
That is correct.
Okay. So let's get into now a little bit about how the subscription works and how the platform works. How do I get it to my TV?
Okay, so it's fairly simple. The subscription is, right now we're in the alpha stage, so we're physically just promoting it through various different social platforms, and it's free. You can simply subscribe to avnio.tv, and it's a browser-based software, so you would need Firefox or Google Chrome in order to access the website, and you just put in a couple of credentials, and voila, you're there. So gender, age, so forth and so on, and due to the fact that we're coming from a cable business model, it's kind of like cable television in terms of the experience. You type in your email address and password once you create your account, and then it takes you to a full screen type of experience with our signature red remote control in the middle, and then the user yourself can physically just click the right or left arrow key within the remote control and turn the channels, and you literally are watching lifestyle channels that we've physically aggregated and created for our user base to watch, and that's it.
So how many channels do you have right now?
Well, currently, right now, we're testing about 60 channels right now in terms of different content that is specifically genre-driven. So let's say, with millennials, especially with the whole YouTube boom, if you're interested only in kung fu movies, you can physically go to like our kung fu channel and just watch nothing but kung fu content or kung fu oriented content.
You had to say those words, didn't you, Jason? Because now Jim is in here doing kung fu moves as we speak.
Exactly, it's definitely a tongue twister. But that's where our vision is to give lifestyle content that's genre driven to a specific demographic, and that demographic is the millennials, which is our core subscriber base.
Okay, great. And you said right now it is free. So if you go to avnio.tv, ovnio.tv, you can subscribe and get all this great content.
You can get all the great content. We're structuring and doing deals with content providers in different parts of the world. Netflix, for instance, and I like to talk about Netflix because they're the major players right now in the game outside of YouTube, which is the biggest. Netflix is penetrating various different parts of Europe, but they're not in China and they're not in Africa. So what we are doing is we're physically putting together Nollywood, which is the African version of Hollywood, Nollywood channels, as well as a bunch of Bollywood channels on the Avnio platform. And we're getting a lot of great response from the Indian marketplace as well as the African marketplace to showcase content that's popular within that region of the world.
Okay. Jason, I think this is a fantastic thing. Tell everybody again where they can go find Avnio.
Well, thank you very much. It's Avnio. It's OVNIO.TV, and you can subscribe using your Firefox or Google browser on your laptop, or desktop, or tablet. We are not iPhone ready. We will be iPhone ready next year, and we will be launching the paid subscription at the top of next year for $6 a month at 50 channels for a basic service.
All right, Jason Swanson, avnio.tv, everybody. Thanks, Jason.
Right now, 57.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And joining us from New York, I guess that's kind of a popular place to be joining us from today.
New York.
Jason was from there as well, but Miss Metaverse, Katie Aquino. How you doing, Katie?
Well, Marla, how you doing?
Doing fine. We're getting some beeps coming in there, but I guess we're okay now, right? All right. So anyway, you happen to be at Maker Faire the last few days, and we're interested to hear about what you saw.
Oh, wow. It's more like what I didn't see.
Well, you didn't see Jim or I.
No, I know. I wish. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. That would be actually a fun thing for us to come over and cover sometime. That'd be great.
Definitely. And, it was huge, huge turnout. I mean, I think last year I saw was a record-breaking attendance of over 216,000 people.
Oh, my goodness.
Maker Faire.
This is actually larger than CES then.
Is it?
Well, I think CES draws about 175,000 to Las Vegas, so that's pretty amazing that they're getting that kind of. But this is Maker Faire is open to the public, correct?
Yes, it's open to the public. You know, you also have a lot of vendors there, and also they had this year. I don't believe I saw this last year, but this year was definitely bigger. I mean, not only was the whole New York Hall of Science full of keynote presentations going on. They also had activities inside there for kids to go check out. And then they also had the whole grounds of the entire building. This huge field was just full of everything you could think of. It was incredible.
So why don't you, for people who aren't familiar with Maker Faire, why don't you explain to everybody what it is?
Okay, so the Maker Faire is... It started out as just a sort of like a fair that was only in the Bay Area back in 2006, and it was small when it first started. It's all about the maker community, right? And there's a growing culture or a subculture of these people that use emerging technologies like 3D printing and robotics and Arduino and Raspberry Pi. And because all these technologies are coming out and they're so inexpensive, families are bonding together and working together to get kids engaged and have them learn about these technologies. It's a great way for kids to, get into science and start learning about STEAM education and their careers in the future.
So are you seeing a lot of children that attend this with their families?
So many. And I have to say, compared to last year, the amount of kids versus parents ratio, I say, was way more kids this year, way more. And I learned also this year that that's how they want it to be. And I didn't understand that at first. I thought it was more about the families. And this year I really understood that this is about the kids. It's really about families, and it's really about encouraging this maker culture and really just doing it all yourself. So
let's talk about the things that maybe stood out to you a little bit. Any innovations that you saw that maybe weren't around last year at last year's Maker Faire?
I'd have to say there was a mix. I mean, there's a lot of things that I did see and also didn't see. There's a lot more things to experiment with. Particularly, there was, let's say, NASA had a booth there, and the NASA booth, you could go up there and try on these space gloves, and you put your hands inside this transparent case, and your hands were inside the space gloves inside this case. And then they showed you what it would be like when they put this pressure on. And it was reenacting what it would be like with gravity in space. And you would have to try to pick up a plastic bottle, using this with the gravity. So it was very difficult, but it was cool. Like, that was a different experience I hadn't experienced before. That was more like hands-on, and it wasn't crowded either, which was great. But there was so much. I mean, they had drones, same as last year, but I think they had more drones. Last year, they only had one netted off area where there was drones that were, it was called Game of Drones, that's it. And Game of Drones was people that brought their drones to compete against one another, and they would knock into each other, and the one that didn't get knocked down was the one that won, right?
So people could actually build their own drones, bring it here, and actually have a competition.
Demolition Derby with
drones. Demolition drones. That would actually be a great TV show, Demolition Drones.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down, actually.
You better get on that, Marlo.
Yeah, I think so. I need to learn. Well, actually, I'd be the perfect candidate for this, since every one that I fly crashes.
Yeah.
That
So
is too
You think
funny.
he's kidding. You think he's just exaggerating for comic effect.
But at least, and many people know Leo Laporte. I think
Sure.
you've heard Leo, right? So
He's an affiliate on our flagship station.
He is. Yes. So I was visiting with him one time here a while back, and it was interesting because we were talking about drones, and he said his first experience was he put it in the air and told it to go up, It never came back down.
Oh, no.
He never, ever found the drone that he was flying that day.
It's passing Pluto right about now.
He just went up and kept going. So, and I know that there are plenty of other experiences like that too. But anyway, very, very cool. Do they have different age brackets for the demolition drones?
Well, that one was last year. They didn't have that this year.
Oh,
At least
okay.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I hung around the drone area. So last year they only had like that small netted off area for Game of Drones. This year it wasn't Game of Drones that was there. Now Game of Drones is also like an organization you could join. Like it's a group that you can go. So I don't think like people from the public were just coming in bringing their drones to compete. I think there are people that registered or like were with this organization. But anyway, so with this year they had a huge area which had multiple different sections, and they called the whole area Drone Zone, which is funny, like, because we're saying a no drone zone. This is the drone zone.
Yes.
So, like, they had all different kinds of things for drones. They even had little tiny toy kinds of drones you could buy for, like, $60. You could fly around. It was really cool to see.
Okay. So
You are now entering the drone zone. On a journey beyond sight and sound. Okay, I'm done.
no, that's pretty good, Jim. Actually,
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that.
That's the old Twilight Zone theme.
Yes.
That's before they had the doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, that everybody remembers nowadays. Yeah. One of my favorite shows, by the way. So other than drones, what else did you see at Maker Faire?
Wow, I mean, there's so much. When you first walked in, and this is really cool, there's a lot of different entrances to get in there, but when you walked in, you saw this huge, it was a 28-foot human-piloted robot sculpture that it looks like a giant 28-foot robot. It's huge. It's all made. It was made of 95% airplane parts, and this giant sculpture was so cool because there was, as I said, it was human piloted. There was somebody that was like pressing a button. They would release fire, and there's fire coming out of this robot's arms and its mouth. And this thing has a name. It's actually going on tour. And it was at, like, the San Francisco Maker Faire as well, like the Bay Area Maker Faire. I think it's going down to Miami. And this is called it's called Robot Resurrection is the name of this fire-spewing robot. And it was crazy to see. It was huge. And it was really cool. I really liked seeing it. I think it kind of, like, gave you that feel like, wow, this is really cool, you know?
So did it do anything besides? We're actually looking at a photo of it right now on the Wall Street Journal website. And does this thing actually move as well, or did it just breathe and throw fire?
Its arms move, but that's it. It doesn't. It's not going to walk around, unfortunately. Sure. At least not yet.
Well, I know that's what you're hoping for. So
yeah, they're working on that.
Yeah, that'll be next year's project. Yeah. So
yes.
Okay. So you were greeted by this unbelievably giant robot made out of airplane parts, and then as you walk into the place...
Mm-hmm. So there was everything and anything you could think of there. I mean, there was people dressed up like mechanical velociraptors running around. There was a robot
hang on a second.
that was...
You got to stop right there.
You're spitting on people?
You're telling me this is like a Star Trek convention on steroids here?
Oh, there was so many crazy things to see. It's like you didn't even know where to look. There was so many robots. I took selfies with this one robot that kind of looked like Chappie. I thought it looked like Chappie. It didn't walk on its own legs, but it had kind of like a mechanical bottom that reminded me of that movie Short Circuit. Remember that robot?
Right, Johnny Five.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of that robot, and it was really cool. So I took a bunch of pictures. I'm going to be putting all my photos anyway. I'll put them on my Instagram, also on Twitter at Miss Metaverse. I saw so many things. Wow, they had a life-size game of Mousetrap there that I've never seen before. It was huge. You know the game Mousetrap?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they had built a life-size Mousetrap, and at one part of it, right, when you, like, I guess, hit the ball and, like, the ball, like, hit this other part, it released this giant anvil on top of a car. Yeah.
All I can think of is Wile E. Coyote standing underneath.
Seriously. I mean, it was cool. It was really cool to see. Very, very much science-based. Like, a lot of things were very much, science experiment kind of feel, to it, because like you could tell they actually had a lot of STEAM education based science fairs like come there and actually show off the winning science experiments from their local high school exhibits that they had. And it was really neat because they had a whole tented off area where you can go in and see all the local high school students winning science projects and what they did. And it was great to see so much STEAM education taking place right here on Long Island and also in New York City.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm assuming 3D printers were the talk of the day, though.
Oh, 3D printers were everywhere. They had a whole 3D printing village.
See, that's my segue to the next part here. So when we come back, Katie and Jim and I will be talking about all the 3D printing innovations that Katie saw at Maker Faire. So come on back.
Right now, it's 63.
Live news headlines and weather together. Weekdays on Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
You know, you mime that so well, Jim.
I know.
You must have heard that once or twice before.
Well, I watched Dee Daniels when she came in to record that, and I just kind of stood behind her and, made faces.
I see.
You're like a Chevy Chase thing. Kind
of like what you're doing now if she was talking about it again.
Yeah. And she had no idea,
Yep.
She would turn around and hi Dee, how are you?
Well, welcome back, everybody. We are talking with Miss Metaverse Katie Aquino from New York, and she was just at the Maker Faire.
New York.
Over the weekend.
A hell of a town.
And we're moving into the 3D printing portion of it. So my first question is, what is the biggest thing that you've seen printed with a 3D printer there?
There was one that was called Gigabot. And Gigabot was this huge 3D printer, and it was probably, I'd say, it was about 5.5 feet tall or so.
Oh.
And it was a multi-material printer, I believe. I'm not totally certain about that, but there's a lot of people surrounded about it. You saw 3D printers that were big, small. There was one guy who had a 3D printer that was doing wires. They could print out bendable wires that you could create all kinds of things with, and he was printing it out to make masks, and he also made bunny ears and rabbit ears for people,
Nice.
And passed them out. It was really cute. And then they also had a lot of multi-material printers. I saw a lot of multi-material printers that I haven't seen before.
So why don't you explain to everybody what a multi-material printer is?
Okay, so originally when 3D printers were coming out, the ones that we're seeing now, these ones that people rave about, for the most part, they all use a plastic filament. So what it looks like is a spool of plastic thread. It looks like, and you put that filament into the 3D printer, and then the 3D printer melts it down, and then prints out whatever you wanted to make. So you can make all kinds of different things, but they're only in plastic.
Right.
Now. Last year, actually not even last year, just a couple months ago, we were raving about the Voxel 8, the 3D printer that was a multi-material printer, meaning that it could use all different kinds of materials. It could print wood, it could print metal, it could print silicone, and it was very exciting to see that it could do a lot of different things. And now, this year, at this year's Maker Faire, there are so many different kinds of multi-material printers. And we talk about technology and exponential growth and how fast things are changing. Marlo, it is crazy how fast things are changing. Seriously. I mean, I was shocked to see so many different kinds of 3D printers. And get this, not only that, I saw one 3D printer that melts down plastics. You could recycle your own plastics at home and then 3D print plastic things out from it.
So I could take my Diet Coke bottles and make 3D things out of it.
Exactly. How cool is that?
That is very, very cool. Yeah, so we're moving into the realm of recycling using 3D printers, and there's a lot of possibility with that.
Yes, we're going to do a lot. I mean, and let's think about it this way. A lot of us say, oh, we're so excited for the day that we could have our own clothes 3D printed at home. But it is already happening. I mean, there are, I've seen some conceptual versions of what it would look like to be able to take your own clothes, and this will happen. This is not, sci-fi. This is going to happen in a couple of years. We will be able to we could buy our own 3D printer that when we are done with clothes that we don't want anymore, torn up shirts or whatever, you could throw it inside this 3D printer that will recycle your clothes and then be able to print out new clothes from your old clothes. And when we get to that point, this world that we're going to be moving into, it's going to be just so incredible, so cool.
Yeah.
Just imagine being able to conserve energy, conserve waste, and be able to create all new things, custom things from old things.
Well, when you think about the ability to, when you purchase things too, the way you get something delivered to you, you'll order something on the internet and it'll be plans to print it. So you'll pay $9.99 for something instead of $29.99, but you're supplying the raw materials now.
Right.
You're just gonna print out that cup that you want or whatever it is. So it's gonna be pretty amazing, and that's actually coming at us much quicker than most people realize.
Yes, it is happening quicker than most people realize. It's true, and it's almost here. It really is. It's happening so fast, and when we were talking about the drones and Amazon having Amazon drones, the drones will be to carry little things. I think in the future we'll have a lot of things at home. I think that we will be there. We'll be able to have most of the things that we need just right from the comforts of our own home without having to worry about delivery,
Yeah, exactly. So did you see anybody working on building houses with 3D printers?
I didn't see that, no. I have to say a lot of things were very much more directed towards, younger people, I'd say. A lot of activities. There were a lot of also, I guess, all ages things. And when it comes to, all ages activities, there was learn to solder. They had this whole tented house area where people could just walk over and sit down and learn how to solder right there on the spot. So I think that's kind of neat because it's something that people kind of thought of, being as kind of like a dangerous thing that not a lot of people would maybe take the time out to learn how to do. And you could just sit right down and learn how easy and fun it is.
Sure. So if are you talking about the old style soldering here? Where you had a solder iron and solder and the whole bit, or?
No. They had just little tiny kits that you could use and experiment with there.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
little circuit boards and things like that.
So of course we're kind of we got a few minutes left here, but I really want to get into maybe some of the things that really stood out.
Yes. Okay. So last year I did a Futurista forecast on my website, futuristmm.com, and one of the reports I did last year was on the future of brain-computer interfaces. And so many people in futurism and technology are fascinated by the idea that we can use our minds to control technology, right?
Okay.
So there's a company called OpenBCI that I wrote about in that Futurista forecast last year. And OpenBCI happened to be at Maker Faire this year. So I was on a mission to go find OpenBCI and, go check it out and try it for myself. And luckily, right before the end of the day yesterday, just as I was about to leave, I was like, wow, I have to find them. And I was running around all the booths trying to find them. And finally I found the booth, and it was really great. I met both of the co-founders. There is Joel Murphy and Connor, and the two of them, they work together on creating this brain-computer interface that looks like a 3D printed cap that you put on your head, right?
Okay.
And what it does is it measures and it records electrical activity that's produced in the brain and also in your muscles, your heart, and all this is read with EEG electrodes. So when they put this cap on my head, it was like this plastic 3D printed cap that had all these sensors attached to it. But it also had a clip that went on each ear. So each ear had one clip on it. And it looks so funny, and I'm going to be posting photos of all this stuff on Twitter, on Instagram, I promise. I'll be putting it up right after the show. And it was really cool. I got to experience that by blinking my eye, my right eye, let's say 4 times, I could control the computer. And I could also see on the computer my actual own brain waves and all the different types of brain waves and pulses that were being read by the machine.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So, all right, we have 3 minutes left, and I want to talk about the NASA finding this morning. Did we talk about this earlier, Jim, already?
We touched on it very briefly.
Did you hear what NASA, their news release was this morning?
Something about Mars.
I did not yet.
Okay, so NASA has declared that they have found running water on Mars.
Wow.
So what do you okay, you're just hearing this for the first time. What do you think of when you hear that Mars has water on it?
I think that I think there's life. I mean, I would like to think that there is life on Mars.
So are you thinking, I'm going to guess the microbial type of realm, but it's hard to say. When I first think about water on Mars, I think about the ability to go there.
Thank you, Marvin.
Yes. Because the ability to have water means that we can grow food. We can travel there without having to pack away. I have no idea how much water one would have to take with you.
Well, there's that movie coming out now about the guy who gets stranded on Mars, and he's like a Robinson Crusoe kind of thing.
I haven't heard
The Martian.
The Martian.
Oh, really?
Well, they did that movie years ago.
Yes, a
there
long
was
time
a
ago.
great movie in the 50s called Robinson Crusoe on Mars. It was
Really?
a very good movie, and it was the exact same plot.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. You can see it on YouTube.
What good timing for this movie to come
Yeah.
out. Yeah. So what else do you think about when you hear about water on Mars?
Well, I mean, I did. I have to admit, the first thing I did think of was actually being able to live there, of course. But secondly, it would be exciting if there was some kind of microbial or something on Mars. I think that for studying, it would be really, really fascinating, of course. And what else do I think of? I think about, terraforming, the ability to actually turn the planet into a habitable place, over time would be just huge, really.
Yep. So, yeah, there are all kinds of possibilities now, I think, because of that announcement this morning from NASA. So, all right, Katie, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Jim, you as well.
One last word from the Martian.
Oh, dear. I got the silly thing in reverse.
Well, everybody, have a great week.